is available to you because some of the people you're talking are already members of that union. I don't know. But it's there to be done, and part of the job that we have to do is facilitate around that. I've noticed that over recent years the embassy has strengthened its trade team. There are now 3 people where there was 1, and the ambassador can't do it all by himself. So we start the conversation today. You had a question as well.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the excellent presentation. Though I came late, but I was glad to see that Nigeria, my country, was on your presentation. Just like my brother asked, what are the next projects coming to Nigeria? And how can we, the individual, the young generation that is coming up like me, also can be partnership to enable to build something like this in my country? Nigeria, I will be glad to see and to be part of this growth, and my children also to have the history and also pass through. How can we benefit? And what is the financial implication? And how can government also help to subsidize the financial implication that is involved in the project to get this result? How is the plausibility of payment? I'm really much interested. Thank you.
Just one question. just one question back to you. Where in Nigeria are you from?
Lagos State.
Lagos State?
Yeah.
Okay. I made a presentation to Lagos State 4 years ago on the vocational college thing. We took it to an agreement to do 9,000 houses, to develop 6 vocational colleges, and to do all of those sorts of things. And then, as often happens in Nigeria, the trail went cold. Yeah. However, we will reactivate that. And I think that what I would say to you is what I say to people who say, how do I make money in Africa? I say, walk down the street. You walk down the street, what do you see? What do you have here that you don't have there? How do we put that in place? So it comes down to a very personal interchange between you and what you want to achieve, because you have the knowledge that I, sitting in Sussex, don't have. I know some of it because I visit regularly and I can see what is needed, but it's not for me to lead that, it's for you to lead that. So you say, in my village, in my community, we need a baker, we need this, we need that, we need the other. You specify, we then work with our members and contacts to help put that in place. You made an interesting point about where's the money coming from, the investment. One of the projects that I should have done last year, and I was asked again to write the paper on it the other day, if you're a UK citizen and you invest in an SME here, there is a thing called the EIS scheme, and that is the Enterprise Investment Scheme, and it gives you various tax advantages so that your risk in investing in the smaller company is reduced. And when you look at a prospectus from a company, it will say this qualifies for EIS tax relief. There is also an SEIS, but it's focused on the UK. And the paper that I want to write is called the Diaspora Enterprise Investment Scheme. And I think that what we ought to be doing is looking at a fund, and this is what I have to put on paper, so I'll try and describe it to you, where people can invest a proportion of the tax that they pay into a fund that then they can draw on later when they say, I want to take my building machine and I want to build 10 houses. I want to take this thing. So long as they spend it on UK equipment and UK services, the government shouldn't have too much of a problem with that, because they do it for UK businesses. Why can they not do it for African businesses, or even Indian, Pakistani or Filipino industries as well? We have a very rich ethnic community here that has a lot of contributions to make in all sorts of areas, and we ought to be looking at how we fine-tune what we provide for UK citizens for people whose orientation is outside the UK. So long as there's benefit for us too. But those are the sorts of things. Now, there are various people who give grants, there are various people who provide low-cost funding, there is the Nigerian Business Angels Network. So depending on what money you want and how much you want, you can go. British government and Nigerian government they have their backs turned at the moment. We're not talking to you, which is silly, but it's part of a process that we're working through. So there's not a lot coming from UK government for Nigeria specifically at the moment, but that will change over time. But there are lots of other people who are looking at it. So again, make it specific, build a plan, qualify that plan so that when you take it to someone who knows, they can look at it and say, this has been thought through. They see your workings, they understand what you're going to do. I had a man come to me on Thursday, he sent me his plan. There isn't one financial figure in it. It's a huge land development, and I asked him how much money he needed. He told me 250 million naira, and I went to Google and I worked out that's £112,000. And I wondered how he was going to do a 10,000 hectare development with £112,000. The thinking is not there, the business plan is not there. Focus on that, turn the dream into a reality on paper, talk to people. There's a huge amount of money within the diaspora for investment into African countries. But it's my money and I'm not giving it to you unless you can give me a reason and show me clearly when you're going to give it back to me.
Yeah.
One more. Can I just, yeah?
Thank you so much, Mr. David. I came late, but I got a good feel for what is happening. And I want to thank you for the commitment to this kind of work, because developmental work does not pay instantly. So it takes a lot of patience and a lot of long-term focus to be able to do it. So the first question, I have two questions to be sincere. The first question is about media. How do people like us, younger people, talk more about these very good projects? Because mainstream media do not talk about it a lot, and we now have a generation of young people that spend more time on socials. Someone like myself, I have like 500,000 following. There is a kind of thing that if I know, and we know the intention, we know the plan is there, we can always talk about it in the communities, you know, and just get more people to know that despite the challenges, good things are happening. And these are the kind of results that has happened somewhere, we can replicate it here. So getting the storytelling to be coming out, some of us will visit,
Yep.
you know, we'll go around, we'll take the cameras there, we'll visit, we'll show people, and when you build credibility over a while, and people know that what you say is as close to the truth as possible, then we will get more traction, and we'll get more people committing to it. So how do we get like a trove of information to know what Baba is doing next, what Baba has done in the past, and just sending the message out? So it's just to get that ability.
Are you based here in Cambridge?
No, London.
In London?
Yes.
Okay, so we can meet in London and we can talk and I can tell you the things. I have to be a little careful because I can't really tell you about Mary's project until
100%.
she says
Yes,
that
yes.
I can tell you about it, because a lot of what I've said this morning is highly confidential.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are projects going on, like the man in Eritrea who bought the building machine and turned over $300,000 in his first year. I can introduce you to the company in Stourbridge who make that machine and the sort of things that they've done. So the story about building 2,000 houses and moving the 2,000 families out of the Kibera slum in Nairobi, the things that they've done in Malawi, and all sorts of other bits and pieces. There are lots of case histories that can come out of what our members are doing. So yes, we can talk that through. My biggest problem, though, in addressing your question is that we have 6,292 business professionals in Cambridge with links to Africa who aren't talking to each other. Okay? Now, I don't know whether to lay that at the door of social media and say they're all on social media looking at your stories, but they're not addressing what they can do in Cambridge. Could be the case. But I would like to just comment on social media and the impact that it's having on a number of people, because when you take, to be careful how I say this, so please be gentle with me if I say it wrong, but if you take Facebook and the map of Facebook connections that I showed at the beginning of my presentation, that is the biggest advertising campaign for UK, Western Europe and the United States that says to the man sitting on, the boy, the girl, sitting on the dusty side of the road, you're missing out. Go to this place, get in the rubber boat, swim across the channel, do what you can to get there, because then you can drive Dr. Toomey's Mercedes. Then you can live in Dr. Akan's castle. Okay. But you get the picture. We've actually got to find a way of putting the mechanics in place where actually, look how they're doing this, and all their salad is made with avocado oil, and let's go down to here, let's go down to there, and get the flow going the other way, because the universities and the colleges of further education are delivering what is needed on the ground where it is. So that whole conversation needs to be taken to a much more sophisticated level, and I'd really like to work with you on it.
Okay, the second question is vocational.
Yeah.
Africa has the youngest continent by far in terms of young people, and it unfortunately has one of the highest unemployment.
Yep.
And part of it is skills.
Yep.
I've worked in UK construction for more than 10 years. I started as a laborer and worked my way up. I have seen people that do not really need to go to university. They just need to be a very, very good and competent electrician.
Yep.
A very good and competent plumber or a bricklayer.
Yep.
One thing that I've noticed back home is that people talk about having trade skills.
Yep.
But the attention to detail, the quality, you don't see it the way you see it in a normal NVQ trained person. So with the model of vocational colleges that we are having, how can we kind of like scale the same thing you said we were having the discussion with Lagos State? We have a very serious need for very, very skilled people.
Yep.
You know, how can we get them to have those kind of city and guilds kind of qualifications where, you know, when they point a block, the 10 mil is 10 mil, when they do the tiling, the level is perfect, you know, and they can take pride in their work because they will get paid for it in the long run. But that scaling of vocational colleges, I want to kind of get more into where the discussions are so far, because there are people yearning for it. You know, they may walk across West Africa if they are very, very skilled. And skilled artisans are rare. So it's a discussion that I hope we can take forward, just to help more young people to say, if you are a skilled carpenter, you can actually make much more than sitting as a cashier in the bank, just getting very, very low earnings.
So I was invited in 2017 to Benin City to meet with religious leaders and traditional rulers there as part of a symposium with a whole stack of people from UK and Europe in the Nigerian-related community. And we sat down at the symposium to discuss youths off the street, which is their understanding of what they wanted, and I argued against it. We want youths on the streets, but we want them contributing in the way that you just described. Out of that came a program that I devised because the thinking that I was given by the people at the symposium was about how to motivate young people. Now, we were in discussion with the government in Côte d'Ivoire at the time for the building of 10,000 houses for uniformed staff. So army, police, fire brigade, all of those sorts of people. And they had the money and they had the mortgages to pay for the houses. They didn't have the money to build the houses. So we were talking with an investor and he committed $220,000 to building the 10,000 houses, so roughly $20,000 a house. And I took that, together with the building machine that I showed you all earlier, which is a manually operated block-making machine with which you can build 10 to 12 houses in a year. And I said, well, if I link that to an experience that I had through my school, which was the wind came in the winter and blew the cricket pavilion over, and the cricket master had nowhere to store the pads and the rollers and stumps and all his kit and what have you, and he had nowhere to welcome the visiting schools when they came to play cricket. So he went to the art master and he said, can you design me a new cricket pavilion? So they did, and it was beautiful. And God saw that it was good. So they went to the bursar, and he said, here you are, Mr. Bursar. He said, wow, that's fabulous. How are you going to pay for it?